So today, we're going to be exploring the last line of the journey, the Z line. And I'm not doing the Staten Island Railway, since it doesn't count as the subway, I think, because it's in Staten Island. So let's get started with the Z. So the Z train doesn't run very often. It runs from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and then it runs from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Or actually 4 to 5 o'clock and 7 to 8 o'clock. And the Z is skip stop, and it's the most hated line in New York City. Starting at Jamaica Center. So at Jamaica Center, you could transfer to the E train, the E and J trains. and yeah. Now let's go. And the Z train doesn't actually run. It only runs on weekdays, not the weekends, or middays, or any holiday days. Like Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Eve, and some others. Now let's go on to Sutton Boulevard, Archer Avenue, JFK Airport.
The next stop is Sutton Boulevard, JFK Airport.
Stand clear of the closing doors.
This stop is Sutton Boulevard, JFK Airport. Change here for the E and J trains. Change here for the Q44 Select Bus Service. Connections are available to the Long Island Railroad and AirTrain to JFK Airport.
So this station and Jamaica Center are the third newest station in like 40-something years. Now let's go on to 121st Street.
This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is 121st Street.
At 121st Street is the first skip stop station, Upper Ground. And it's the first station, Upper Ground. Now let's go on to 104th Street.
This stop is 121st Street. Change here for the Q10 bus to JFK Airport. This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is 104th Street. This is the...
At 104th Street, you could transfer to the J train. Now let's go on to Woodhaven Boulevard.
Train to Broad Street. The next stop is Woodhaven Boulevard.
Woodhaven Boulevard used to be a closed station in 2023 and 2024. Now let's go on to 75th Street, Elders Lane.
This stop is Woodhaven Boulevard. Change here for the J train and the Q52 and Q53 select bus services. This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is 75th Street, Elders Lane.
At 75th Street, Elders Lane is the last station in Queens. Now let's go on to Crescent Street.
The train to Broad Street. The next stop is Crescent Street.
At Crescent Street is the first station in Brooklyn. Now let's go on to Norwood Avenue.
This stop is Crescent Street. Change here for the J train. This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Norwood Avenue.
At Norwood Avenue, you could transfer to the J train. Now let's go into Van Sinklin Avenue.
This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Van Sinklin Avenue.
At Van Sinklin Avenue, you can also transfer to the J train. Now let's go on to Alabama Avenue.
This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Alabama Avenue.
So at Alabama Avenue, I guess it reminds them of the state of Alabama. Now let's go on to Broadway Junction.
This stop is Alabama Avenue. Change here for the J train. This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Broadway Junction.
At Broadway Junction, you could transfer to the is a terminus station for the Z train. The Z train sometimes ends here, and the J train too. And you could transfer to the A, C, J, and L trains. Now let's go into Chauncey Street.
This stop is Broadway Junction. Change here for the A, C, and L trains. This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Chauncey Street.
The J train doesn't stop here during rush hour. Only the Z does. Now let's go on to Gates Avenue. That's why we skipped Chauncey Street and Gate Avenue on our way here. Now let's go on to Gates Avenue.
This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Gates Avenue.
This is another station that the J train skips during rush hour. And during the other times, the J train stops at those stations. And the Z train only stops here during rush hours. Now let's go on to Myrtle Avenue.
This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Myrtle Avenue, Broadway.
So at Myrtle Avenue is the first station to transfer to the M train. Now let's go on to Marcy Avenue.
Stop is Myrtle Avenue, Broadway. Change here for the M train across the platform. This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Marcy Avenue.
So Marcy Avenue is the last station in Brooklyn. Now let's go on to Delancey Street, Essex Streets.
This stop is Marcy Avenue. Change here for the M train and the B44 Select Bus Service. This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Delancey Street, Essex Street.
At Delancey Street, Essex Street is the first station in Manhattan and is the last chance to transfer to the M train. Now let's go on to Bowery.
This stop is Delancey Street, Essex Street. Change here for the F and M trains. Change here for the M14 Select Bus Service. This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Bowery.
Bowery has an abandoned platform that is not used for passenger service anymore. Now let's go on to Canal Street.
This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Canal Street.
Canal Street has an abandoned platform, but it's not in use anymore. And you could transfer to the 6, J, and Q, R, and W trains. Now let's go on to Chambers Street.
This stop is Canal Street. Change here for the 6, N, Q, R, and W trains. This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Chambers Street.
So at Chambers Street, you could transfer to the 4, 5, and 6 trains. And Chambers Street is actually one of the dirtiest stations in New York City. Now let's go on to Fulton Street.
This stop is Chambers Street. Change here for the 4, 5, and 6 trains. This is the train to Broad Street. The next stop is Fulton Street.
So at Fulton Street, you could transfer to the 2, 3, 4, 5, A, and C trains. And you could transfer to the PAP trains. Now let's go on to the final last stop, Broad Street.
Stop is Fulton Street. Change here for the 2, 3, 4, 5, A, and C trains. Connections are available to PATH trains. This is the train to Broad Street. The next and last stop is Broad Street.
Stand clear of the closing doors.
So at Broad Street is the last stop and terminus station for the J and Z trains. And the brown M used to end here and go on via the Cog Crystal Street line, along with the N and R line and the W line.